Grihastha and the Tyagis. Right? So right now, he is now mentioning all proper conduct with regards to the Grihastha devotees. So what is saying, the first one, with regards to marriage and maintenance of family, is saying husband, wife, and children. He said they are to practice Bhagavad Bhajan and at the same time performing their worldly duties, but worldly duties that are favorable to Bhagavad Bhajan. There may be duties that are not favorable, then that they don't perform. And then he said sons and daughters born in the course of following the worldly duties, he said they should be nourished, protected, and accepted as what? As Krishna's servants. That is their identity. Not as they are like the false Krishnas. Sometimes the children, they're being too much spoiled by parents, so much affection, and now they think they're like center of the world. They should be like nourished and he said nourished, protected, and accepted as Krishna servants. Somehow that has to be ingrained in their identity that I am Krishna servant, I am not the enjoyer. Otherwise, later on, especially if parents not like disciplining kids, then later on these kids will be a big problem for the parents. And of course, money is required. So he's saying that you maintain family, but that should be by suitable means. That is lawful. Don't do any illegal activities. Do according to Dharma. Sometimes they would say that end justify the means. And sometimes devotees would say like that. This is for Krishna anyway. And so then, no problem. I'll deal with drugs and whatever it is, and it will be used for Krishna service anyway. Okay. Here he said, do all this for maintenance and whatever for service. Do that in a lawful way, following according to Dharma. Second, in relation to knowledge and education. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, it is necessary to be educated at an appropriate age, but the study of books or scriptures that are averse to Krishna should not be undertaken. So very important, this for grihasthas, no? This like parents. Very important that you be concerned, the education of your child, like this. But he said, and that's why he's saying, okay, you put your children into like materialistic schools, and it's just like you have to be careful where you especially like young. That's very how do you call this? At that time, children are it's like very crucial stage. Like they're easily, that is like the shaping of their. It's like they're very soft. At that stage, that is the time when they are learning and accumulating, like how to see this world, like this, how to see themselves, like that. So, especially at young age, very important that they'll be protected. And so, yeah, it's good if they stay with the devotees in the devotee school. And he said even like studying of books or scriptures, but if it is averse to Krishna, this should not be undertaken. So he's saying, understand the purpose of knowledge. What is the purpose of knowledge? That is to enter Krishna bhajan. Purpose of knowledge is not according to what Hiranyakashipu and they're training. What are they doing? Telling only for economic development, sense gratification, like this. Even religiosity and liberation, like this. But really only for bhakti. So, purpose of knowledge is to enter Krishna bhajan, not to acquire money or prestige. Okay, third, in relation to serving guests. So, this is a special section when I talk about householders. Householders, that is one of their dharma, like be very charitable, and when guests are there, they should serve. There's even all these like injunctions that a proper householder, before he even eat, he should go outside his door and ask who's hungry, like that, and see like any like strangers or like that are hungry. Then they have to feed them, and then after that, then he can, then their family can eat. So this is ideal like householder. Anyway, he's saying here, serving guests is the primary responsibility of householders. And they are to be honored in accordance with one's capacity and without duplicity. Oh, so when guests are there, you have to honor the guest, but only as far as you can also, no. Like you cannot like serve more than you can. And you have to serve without duplicity, like honestly, with sincerity, not like pretending very nicely, but inside like, you know, like so much like bad feelings and like that. So, according to one's capacity and without duplicity, you serve your guests. And he said, this is the prime responsibility of householders. Guests are of two types. Okay, so now the question is, okay, that is their primary duty to serve guests. So, who are guests? Okay, how do we understand guests? He's now telling here, there are two types of guests. There are the ordinary guests and the devotee guests. So, being fully conversant with the difference between them, one should appropriately honor ordinary guests and affectionately serve devotee guests. So when we talk about affectionately serve devotee guests, really, you have that kind of relation as explained in the previous essay about association. Like as far as devotees are concerned, you say you're associating with them. But association really means when there is affection. And so when you have these 6 things happening, 6 activities, this is like a show of actual affection. Dadati pratikinati, goyam maketi prichate, bhungte vajayate. You know these 6 things, you remember? Giving charitable gifts, accepting gifts, revealing your mind or inquiring, you know, and then feeding prasad and accepting prasad, like this. Now, as far as like ordinary guests, this is the duty of householders. They have to give charity and like that, but only appropriate, like not with much affection. Actually, just you do it out of duty. For the non-devotees, you only do that out of duty, not with affection. And otherwise, there'll be attachment, you know, like this. So, in relation to virtuous qualities, householders ought to behave with everyone in a simple manner and without duplicity. In this way, they should always perform Bhagavad Bhajan. What is this section? It said in relation to virtuous qualities. Okay, so it's saying behave in a simple manner without duplicity. Should perform Bhagavad Bhajan. The foremost duty of householders is to serve their Gurujan. When you say Gurujan, referring to their spiritual masters and superiors. For by doing this, Bhagavan is satisfied. They are to receive instructions on Vairagya Dharma, or the duties of a renunciant. But they must not adopt the dress of a renunciant and deceitfully act as if they are renounced. You following? Okay, they're householders, they have children, they have all this like work and house and some possessions. But ultimately, they have to receive instructions on detachments. This Vairagya Dharma, or on duties of a renunciant. They're receiving this instruction in a way like now they're living with all these things, but hopefully in that mood of Yukta Vairagya. When you say Yukta Vairagya, that is proper renunciation. What is that? Meaning, you accept what is there. You don't just renounce and say like, oh, I don't have any relation with anything. especially for householders, you cannot do that because that is your duty. You have children, you have family, and you have all these things. But what you do is that you engage everything in the service of Krishna. There will be sense enjoyment, but you will not be attached to that. Ultimately, in your service to Krishna, like here, we're just serving Krishna, and automatically there's all this like sense enjoyment, very nice prasad, like all these facilities. But we don't really hanker for this. We don't like try to become attached to this. And in this way, it's just like you just see it. Oh, this is the effect. I'm serving Krishna. And sometimes there's suffering also, like some austerities, like this. So whether happiness or distress, like enjoyment, austerities, like this, these are all passing. Your concern is everything for Krishna, like this. So you accept everything according to Krishna's service. So householders, it said that they have to receive instructions on Vairagya Dharma, duties of renunciants, but they should not adopt the dress of a renunciant. They're householders, but they dress like sannyasi. No. And they should not make all these deceitful acts as if they are renounced. Renunciation must be genuine, not artificial. So, you look, in Sanskrit, renunciation, the term is vairagya. The root word for that is rag, anurag, vairagya. So, vai, usually the prefix vai is referring to vishesh, like special. So, anurag, and anurag means deep attachment. So, when you said vairagya, one who has very, very deep attachment to Krishna naturally becomes detached. Like this. So that is the actual reason why you are detached to this world. Why? Because you have a very special, deep attachment to a different world, to Krishna, like this. So this is not something artificial. You may try to pretend or how do you call this? Like impose to yourself, like, oh, I will not do this, I will not do this. Like many jnanis, that is their whole thing, is like, oh, like give up everything, like that. And it's like they have to be free, to be liberated. Sometimes they do all these austerities, like this. And because they don't have higher attachment, after some time they fall down. Like they may, for some time, they may appear like, oh, very nice, no relation, no attachment to anything. But after some time, because they're not fixed to a higher attachment. By nature, we have to be attached. You cannot say, I cannot be attached to anything. You have to be attached. You have to be attached to Krishna, to the devotees, like this. Then you will be detached from this world. If not, then artificially you can pretend I'm detached. But later on, it will come again. Attachment very strong. You become like this Bharat, the story of King Bharat. He's a great king, and he went to the forest, and he became detached. Showing detachment, but he became attached to a deer. You know the story, no? Then later he became a deer himself, like this. So this is the situation, unless you have attachment to Krishna. So he is saying here now. Okay, I lost my page. Gurudev would always say also as far as detachment, he said it will come naturally. They don't try to force like this. It will come naturally. It's like when eating, when you become full, automatically after that, when everything digested, then automatically you will have to run to the bathroom, and there you have to pass. So you can, if you're saying, should I go to the bathroom or not, like that means it's not time yet. It's like, But even if someone will tell you, hey, don't go. You said, no, I have to go. They'll hold you. Don't go, you cannot go. You will have to go because like it's time, like this. So he said, after like so much strong association, all these bhakti sanskars there, like this, then it becomes very natural. People will say, no, no, no. Then you will, no, I have to go, like that. It will be like that. It will naturally come. So, it is necessary for all householders to possess the quality of being compassionate to others. Oh, no, he said, before that, a householder is to maintain firm faith in bhakti. A householder is to maintain firm faith in bhakti and accept only those sense objects that are required to maintain his life according to his needs, while remaining unattached to them. Okay, so this is what we talk about, yukta vairagya. That is, only your faith is in bhakti, very firm faith in bhakti. You only accept only those sense objects that are required for maintenance, and meaning you accept only according to what is needed, not like otherwise, and remaining unattached. Okay. And he said, internally, it is necessary to endeavor to allow the immaculate current of bhakti to flow, while externally continuing to behave according to social customs. When Raghunandas Goswami, he met Mahaprabhu, immediately he told Mahaprabhu, I want to give up my family, I want to stay with you. Then Mahaprabhu's instruction was on this one. You see, in the life of Raghunandas Goswami, we see all the examples, how to be a householder. Then later on, how to become sannyasi, like this. So at that point in his life, then you can see what is proper behavior, based on the instruction of Mahaprabhu. What is proper behavior of grihastha. So at that time, when he asked Mahaprabhu if he can renounce, he leave his family and be with him, Mahaprabhu was telling him, don't be like a monkey renouncing. You know, Markat Vairagya. You know why monkey, no? Monkey, they look so renounced. They don't have clothes, you know, they live on trees. Actually, they don't even have a house, they move from one tree to the other. So like, they don't have any possession. But they're big sense enjoyer, and they, look, like here in Vrindavan, you know how monkeys are, they steal your things, like that. So, these monkeys, he said, don't be like a monkey renunciant, pretending like a renounce, but then deep inside, so many attachments are there, then you'll be like monkeys. Like so, now he said, now, go, like, do all your duty as a householder, like this. No need to, at this point, no need to do all this external renunciation. Stay in your house, do all your duties, but internally, you do your bhajan. Quietly only, like this. So that's why he's saying internally, necessary to endeavor, like the pure current of bhakti to flow, but externally behaving according to the social customs, like this. And by doing so, one can attain the mercy of Bhagavan within a short time. So it is necessary for all householders to possess the quality of being compassionate to others. Among all the types of compassion in this world, engaging the living entities in Krishna Bhakti is topmost. Okay, so compassion, we understand compassion, no? What's compassion? Like, yeah, what's compassion? Yeah, like mercy, like you want the welfare, you know, like you think for the welfare of others, really. You know? I think that's compassion, right?
Giving happiness. Removing suffering.
Yeah, like you don't want others to suffer. You give shelter to others. That's why, you know, in the second slok of, third slok of Shikshastakam, everyone knows, no? Everyone should know. What's the third slok of Shikshastakam? Trinadapi Sunicena, Daradapi Saishama, Amani Namanada Kitanga Salari. If you have not memorized that, you should memorize, but at least you know that the English translation. Everybody knows the English. You don't know also. You know this. One should be more humble than lower than a straw in the street, right? Trinadapi Sunicena. You should have humility lower than the straw in the street. You know the straw in the street, like this, like dry grass. Those ones, people step on them. Nothing, like they don't react like this. So, and aside from that, is you should be more tolerant than a tree. Now, tree very tolerant, but also one quality of the tree is for analogy of compassion, like this. Why? Because the tree is that very compassionate. Always ready to give shelter, to give, actually, basically the whole tree is there for everyone. You know, it's like, even people who comes there for killing the tree, he will be there giving them shade, their fruit, and everything, like this. So that is example of compassion. So here, in this world, you may say someone is compassionate, mostly based on the goals of people's life, you know? And we know there are 5 goals, right? As far as like in mundane, there's only like 4, but then there's the highest one, prema, right? So the other ones, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, you know? Dharma. Like, it said like, if people following dharma, then they will live nicely, you know, dharma. Artha, everyone wants economic development. Kam, sense enjoyment. And moksha, ultimate liberation. And so usually, in this world, people will consider someone compassionate if he's able to give this 4. If someone helping others to have realize their dharma, like this, they said, oh, he's very compassionate. Or if someone giving so much money, like this, then say, oh, very compassionate, giving economic development, or giving them sense gratification, like this. Then they say, oh, he's very merciful, very compassionate, like this. And especially if we see all these different personalities, they're helping people to be liberated, then they're also considered compassionate. But ultimately, the most compassionate is someone who's giving prema, giving everyone prema, because that's the only thing that really can satisfy the soul. The soul needs. Everything else, all this from dharma, artha, kama, moksha, these are all like temporary. So, and that's why we say Mahaprabhu is the most compassionate. Mahaprabhu, who can be more compassionate than Mahaprabhu? Mahaprabhu giving prema without discrimination to everyone. So, he said, oh, this compassion. Okay. So now, I've just now told you this concept of compassion, because then when you say householders should have the quality of being compassionate to others, that means not just giving them dharma, artha, kama, moksha, but really helping them to have prema. Among all types of compassion in this world, engaging the living entities in Krishna Bhakti is topmost. That's what I was telling you. Householders will themselves engage in Krishna Bhakti and also endeavor to bring others to this path. And really, if you don't do Krishna Bhakti, how possible to bring others? You know, so therefore, necessarily, when we talk about householders, they really have to do Krishna Bhakti, and then in this way they can help others follow this path. The foremost way to bring others to this path is to instruct them to constantly chant Krishna Nam. Detrimental association should always be avoided. Okay, we already learned this previous essay. It said avoid all kusanga, detrimental association, bad association. You still remember? Who, what? What is unwanted association?
Non-devotee.
Non-devotees, which means there's many of them. No, the karmis, jnanis, the yogis, everyone that is not devotee. That's one. And then second one, he says the women. Okay. Now, that women meaning in relation to according to your situation. Let's say, if you're tyagis, then of course that is kusangha, that is bad association, associated with women. And even if you're a householder also, you have proper association, like having wife and even women, like ladies, kids, like this. But still, you have to avoid associating like illicit relation with women, like this. So that's why they put that in the category. So, he said, the foremost way to bring others to this path is to instruct them to constantly chant Krishna Nam. And the detrimental association should always be avoided. In the association of pure devotees, one is to hear and chant Bhagavan's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. But Bhakti is spoiled by participating in the kirtan of non-devotees. So, why do you say kirtan of non-devotees? Who, they say, non-devotees do kirtan? Non-devotees don't do kirtan. But why sing like this? Because there can be so-called devotees. You know, they may be doing kirtan. Anyone can, like my Mayavaris, they can do kirtan also. They're chanting mantra and others. But they're considered non-devotees in the previous message. No. For one, they want to deny, remove the existence of Bhagavan. They deny his existence as a person, like this. So, he said, Bhakti is spoiled by participating in the kirtan of non-devotees. By doing so, the bondage of material existence tightens even more. If you do such things, he said the bondage of material existence becomes even more tight, like this, more difficult to go out. Why? Because what happens, you know, so we should understand why he says like this. You do these activities, then the more you become bound in the material world. Why? Because by such activities, you commit offense to Bhakti Devi. This is what Mahaprabhu told to, Mahaprabhu has one Kirtaniya. His name is Mukunda. You know? In one time, because there was, like every day Mahaprabhu would have his Sankirtan. Every day, no, in Sriras Angan with his devotees. And sometimes Mahaprabhu in the mood of a devotee. Sometimes Mahaprabhu in the mood of God. When he's in the mood of God, the devotees actually become happy. Because Mahaprabhu would accept their like worship, you know. Mahaprabhu is like glorious and like that. Sometimes he would sit on the altar and devotees, they would like praise him like this. So devotees are happy. But when sometimes he will be in the mood of a devotee, then the devotees become like afraid because he would start getting their foot dust like that. Or sometimes he would be so absorbed in ecstasy and he would fall on the ground and like so strong like this. And yeah, they fear Mahaprabhu's body becomes hurt like that. So it said that at one point, for 21 hours, that's 7 prahar. For 1 prahar is 3 hours. So for 21 hours, so that's a long time. There's 24 hours, so that's almost like whole day. So for 21 hours, he was in this mood of like his God. And then one by one, he was like giving praying to everyone like this. You know, so very nice. One by one, like he's calling everyone, calling Advaita Acharya, you know, Haridas Thakur, like this. One by one, and relating to them as like personally, like this. And everyone got a chance to be with Mahaprabhu. But he has one Kirtaniya, his name is Mukunda. He wanted to go inside, he was not allowed. He would enter, but Mahaprabhu said like, he's not allowed to come here. So then, Mukunda asked Srivas, like, please ask Mahaprabhu if I can come, like this. And Mahaprabhu said, like, I don't even want to see his face, like this. And everyone actually became so, like, surprised that he's Mahaprabhu's Kirtaniya. Mukunda, you know Mukunda, right? Like, he's the one who brought Gadadhar Pandit to Pundarit Vidyanidhi. And even Gadadhar Pandit, he saw Pundarit Vidyanidhi. He was still thinking like, what is this? I thought he's a devotee. He's like sense enjoyer. He's got very nice hair with oil. He's very nice clothes. Like this, very extravagant. He has he's chewing pan, and he's got this this bowl for spitting. Someone fanning with peacock feathers and like that. So it's like in his mind, he's thinking like, I was thinking like some devotee, like very humble devotee, like this. But it's like looks like a sense enjoyer. Then Mukunda immediately he saw, oh, this is like some impression like this of Gadadhar Pandit. Then immediately he sang Kirtan, some verses from Bhagavatam, glorifying how merciful Krishna is. He said, who can be merciful than Krishna? Even Putana, like a demon, just because Putana offered her breast for Krishna. Although it's a demon, she became liberated. She's now one of the nurse in Golok. She became like one of the elderly gopis, had that position like a nurse, like this. So then, many other verses. And then became so ecstatic. And then Gadadhar Pandit immediately saw like, oh, he's not an ordinary person. So that's Mukunda. Like Mukunda, he's a very good Kirtaniya Mahaprabhu. But this particular time, Mahaprabhu is showing a lesson. And that's why I'm mentioning it here. So when Mukunda asked through Srivas, can he come inside? Actually, Mahaprabhu, I don't even want to see his face. And the devotees, they were like wondering, like, why Mahaprabhu said like that? That's his Kirtaniyas. Sometimes when he's singing Kirtan, Mahaprabhu would be crying. Everyone would be crying. Like this. And so then Mahaprabhu said, this person, in one side, in front of you, he looks very humble. Like this. He may have like a straw on his teeth, like that. But with one arm, he has a stick. And he's beating me. Like that. Mahaprabhu is telling like that. And the devotees, they're like thinking like, what is Mahaprabhu telling about? And so then, and you can read this in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Mahaprabhu is explaining the situation of people. See, he said, this Mukunda, when he's with us, then he would sing Kirtan and glorifying Bhakti. But then with his Samkarmis and with his Samgyanis, then he would be there glorifying also Karma. He would also glorifying Gyan and like this. And so then Mahaprabhu, he said, if someone thinks that there is something equal to Bhakti or even greater to Bhakti, then that person, he said, is like beating me. They're committing offense to Bhakti Devi. You understand? So, like that's the case. If you think karma and gyan, whatever they're doing, is the same as bhakti. You know, you just say like, oh yeah, very good. Like that's one path, and we're all the same. You may think like that, and you also join their program, their activities like this. So, and you think, okay, this is the same as our activity. Bhakti is good like this. So then it shows like, you have that you don't have that faith, that exclusive faith for Bhakti. Bhakti is the greatest. Nothing can be equal to Bhakti. You understand? A practical situation of this is like, you can look at how you behave. Let's say, like for example, I've seen, we stay with Prabhuji, and we're in Navadvip, sometimes in the morning, and actually every day when Prabhuji is in Navadvip, he goes to Ganga in the morning, take bath. So Brahmacharis go with Prabhuji, and we go to the Ganga, and before taking bath, we chant all these different prayers, ashtagams. It's very nice. This is directly an activity of bhakti. But some brahmacharis are there also. What they do at that same time, they're doing their yoga asana. I've seen. They're doing their yoga exercises like that. So now, look, Do you think that activity is equal to that activity that the Vaishnavas, these Vaishnavas are doing? Why would you spend that time, which you can be, with the Vaishnava, and directly there praying to Ganga Devi, taking bath on Ganga Devi, offering prayers? You spend that time, instead of doing that time, you're doing this yoga, asana, and all this yoga exercise. That means are they equal? Never. Like this. So, this is like an example of how you see, as if you're not appreciating how important bhakti and thinking this activity is, what I'm doing now is as important as bhakti. Like this. So, Mahaprabhu is telling this, this is only a pastime. We know Mukunda, he is eternal associate of Mahaprabhu. So, at this point, he was explaining like this. If someone thinks that something is equal or greater than bhakti, that person is beating me and is committing offense to Bhakti Devi. I will never give them praying. So then he's like, this Mukunda. Now with us, he's there glorifying bhakti, but then he's with all these jnanis and karmis, and there he would also glorify them as if they're equal to bhakti. And so then Mukunda, he heard this, and he said, okay, before I commit suicide, before I jump into the Ganga, because otherwise, really, what's the use of my life? He said to Srivas, please ask Mahaprabhu if I get a chance to see him again. When will he again welcome me? Then Srivas asked, then Mahaprabhu said, okay, you can tell him after 1,000,000 lifetimes. After 1,000,000 lifetimes. And so then Srivas told to Mukunda, Mahaprabhu said after 1,000,000 lifetimes. And then Mukunda became very happy. He started dancing, saying, yes! Mahaprabhu said after 1,000,000 lifetimes. Like this. And Mahaprabhu, he knows. Actually, at that time, he already telling Srivas, bring Mukunda inside. Like this. But Mukunda already so much ecstatic, he was very happy. Like this, he didn't even know that Mahaprabhu calling and people pushing him there, Anyhow, then there's all this conversation. Mahaprabhu is telling him, I'm only joking with you, like this. You are my eternal servant, like that. And I'm your eternal master, like this. But they're doing this to show this teaching. And what is that teaching? That we should have that firm faith in bhakti. Don't think that something is equal to bhakti, like this. So this is how you can see a sadhu. So sometimes someone may see, his very bad behavior, like this, but he has that firm faith in bhakti, that yes, bhakti is the only way, that kind of faith, and really his life, he's already surrendered, he's giving, my life is only for that. But sometimes he may have that behavior very rough or very, according to material standards, is bad behavior, like this. So he's saying here, bhakti is spoiled by participating in the kirtan of non-devotees. By doing so, the bondage of material existence tightens even more. So I was telling why? Because they're committing offense to Bhakti Devi. Okay, next one. He said, Grihasthas are to be completely dependent upon the desire of Bhagavan. Okay. There's no further explanation to that. That is number 5. He said, Grihasthas are to be completely dependent upon the desire of Bhagavan. Number 6, they should take special care to renounce the association of non-devotees, women, and those who are overly fond of women. Then 5, 6, 7 said Sadgrihasthas, or householders. Now this using the term Sadgrihasthas, meaning real grihasthas. Not Sadgrihasthas meaning they're very sad, because they have no money or something like that. They're miserable grihasthas. And Sadgrihasthas meaning real householders, meaning they're following properly conduct according to Bhakti. So, Sadgrihasthas who properly and sincerely follow the path of Bhakti are to chant 100,000 times or 1 lakh names of 1 lakh Harinam every day. pure Vaishnavas will honor prasad only at the house of such householders. This is Mahaprabhu's example. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is telling this, all these things are actually based on how Mahaprabhu and his associates behave. So, Mahaprabhu, he would only honor prasad at the Vaishnava's place, those who chant only 1 lakh Harinam. That means 64 rounds a day. Then he said, knowing the difference between pure Vaishnavas and Smartas. When you say Smartas, they are referring to Brahmanas who rigidly adhere to the Smriti Shastras, which codify religious behavior. Householders are to serve the pure Vaishnavas affectionately. Do you understand this? He said, householders, they should serve the pure Vaishnavas affectionately. Why? Because they will know the difference between a pure Vaishnava and someone who is a Smarta. One who is only like, sometimes we say Smarta Brahmins, you know. They're mostly identifying so much with all these, like their position and rules which actually adhere to preserving the pride of their position. You know, like we're Brahmanas, like that. Many of these Smartas, they're opposed to the teachings of Mahaprabhu that caste is not by birth, but by quality. So he's saying here that although there is no external difference between the activities of pure Vaishnavas and Smartas, take note, he said, although there is no difference between there is no external difference between the activities of pure Vaishnavas and Smartas, there is a gulf of difference in their inner faith. Hence, to consider them both in the same category will lead to degradation. It is necessary, therefore, for a householder to properly understand this and interact with them accordingly. So now he said the true dharma of householder. I think we can stop here. This is still very long, and it's good to stop here. Then we can begin in a new section, like properly. I also have other things to do. Stopping already. 12:30, huh? Okay, so we can continue tomorrow. Or not tomorrow. When Prabhuji is not in class, this will be our backup class. Okay? Jai Srila Gurudev ki Jai Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur.